I am the Eternal Voyager. I left my home, world countless ages ago. Long after humanity took its final breath, I have travelled across nebulae that collapsed into silence, passed through the ruins of galaxies that faded into memory, and drifted among the ghost clusters where even starlight had begun to forget itself. And now I have arrived here, at the edge of everything familiar, where the last scattered embers of the universe finally surrender to darkness. Ahead lies the true intergalactic void, the great black sea, where no light has crossed for trillions upon trillions of years. A place unchanged and unbroken since the dawn of time. Here, the silence is absolute. Here, even time loosens its grip. Here, the loneliness becomes something deeper, something almost peaceful, as though the void itself is inviting me to rest. This is the black sea of eternity, an endless ocean of nothingness, and yet somehow a place that feels alive. Welcome to the deepest dark the universe has ever known. Sometimes I think about endings, not the dramatic kind, but the quiet kind. The Voyager drifts now beyond anything, beyond the spiral arms, beyond the outer halos, beyond even the faint dwarf galaxies that cling to the edges of known space like forgotten outposts. We left the last stars behind hours ago, maybe days. Time feels different out here, stretched and malleable, no longer ticking forward with the certainty it once had. The screen shows only darkness now, not the darkness of night on Earth, where city lights glow on the horizon and the moon casts silver across landscapes. Not even the darkness between stars, where distant suns still pepper the view with their ancient light. This is something else entirely. A darkness that goes on forever, thick and absolute, pressing against the hull like deep ocean water. It is the kind of darkness that makes you question whether your eyes are open or closed, whether the screen is functioning or failed completely. I remember the last star we passed. It was small, red and tired, barely glowing at all really. A red dwarf at the edge of everything, clinging to existence with the last of its fusion fuel. It flickered once as we drifted by, a weak pulse of crimson light that seemed almost deliberate, like it was saying goodbye. Then it faded behind us, swallowed by distance and time, and the void consumed everything that remained. That was hours ago now, or perhaps days. The transition was so gradual, I cannot pinpoint the exact moment when the last photon from that star stopped reaching us. The velvet black came slowly at first, like curtains closing on a stage at the end of a long performance. One by one, the distant points disappeared, swallowed by expanding space and the limits of detection. The Milky Way shrank to a smudge of light, then a glow, then a memory, then nothing at all. Now there is nothing behind us, nothing ahead, nothing beside. Just the Voyager and this endless dark, two concepts that seem to merge together until I cannot tell where the ship ends and the void begins. I used to fear this moment. The moment when all reference points vanish, when you cannot tell up from down, when motion itself becomes questionable. Are we moving forward through space? Or is the universe standing still while we hang suspended in a single point of existence? Out here, these questions lose meaning. They become philosophical rather than practical, thought experiments rather than navigation concerns. The instruments still hum quietly in the background, measuring things I cannot see with my limited human senses. They report radiation levels dropping to nearly zero, temperature approaching the cosmic minimum, gravity so weak it barely registers on even the most sensitive equipment. We are in true intergalactic space now. The space between the islands, the ocean between worlds, the vast emptiness that separates one cluster of galaxies from another. Astronomers back on Earth used to call these regions voids, a term that seemed dramatic when I first heard it but now feels perfectly accurate. These are the true voids of space, regions so empty that light takes hundreds of millions of years to cross them, where matter is so sparse that you might travel for millennia without encountering a single atom. Strange how peaceful it feels. I thought it would be terrifying to be this far from everything, to have no sun in any direction, no constellation to name, no nebula colouring the view with clouds of birth and death. But instead there is calm, a deep quiet calm like floating in warm water at night with your eyes closed, just existing without purpose or destination. The fear I anticipated never materialized. Perhaps fear requires something to fear, some threat or danger, and out here there is nothing that can threaten us. No asteroids to collide with, no radiation storms to weather, no gravity wells to escape. Just endless empty space that asks nothing and offers nothing. The Voyager becomes very small out here, and also very large. Small because the distances are impossible to truly comprehend, because we are a speck of metal and life in an ocean of nothingness that stretches for millions of light years in every direction. Large because we are the only thing, the only reference point in all this space, the only object with meaning or purpose or memory. For millions of light years around us, there is nothing else. No rock tumbling through the dark, no gas cloud waiting to collapse into stars, no stray photon carrying messages from distant suns. Just us, alone in a way that no human has ever been alone before. I wonder what Earth looks like now. Not physically, because I know it is too far away to see, too distant for any signal to reach us or any light to return. I mean in time. Thousands of years have passed there maybe, or millions, depending on how relativity has bent our journey. 83 Tinlicker speeds. Time does strange things, stretching for us while racing ahead for those we left behind. The people I knew are gone, dust and memory, their lives completed centuries ago by any reasonable measure. The cities have been rebuilt or vanished, the languages evolved or died, the very continents reshaped by patient geology. Maybe humanity reached the stars by now. Maybe they built ships better than the Voyager and spread across the galaxy like seeds on wind, establishing new worlds and new civilizations in places we can only dream of. Or maybe they stayed home, content with their single world, tending their garden while the universe spun on without them. It does not matter out here. Out here, even memory feels distant, like something that happened to someone else in another lifetime. The void has a way of softening things, smoothing the edges, making the past feel like a dream you half remember upon waking. The screen stays black. No flicker, no shimmer, no sudden appearance of unexpected structure. Just pure darkness uninterrupted by anything resembling light or form or substance. I leave it on anyway, not because I expect to see something, but because turning it off feels like giving up, like admitting the journey is over and there is nothing left to witness. But it is not over. It is just different now, transformed into something slower and more contemplative than the frantic rush through stellar neighborhoods and galactic arms. We are descending into the deepest ocean, the place where no light has ever reached, where the water is so still you cannot tell it from air. This is the place astronomers call the void, the gaps between galactic superclusters, regions so empty that they challenge our understanding of what space itself means. And we are inside one now, drifting through it like a bottle dropped into the sea, carried by currents too subtle to measure, falling endlessly through layers of nothingness that stretch beyond comprehension. There is a word for this feeling, though I struggle to name it precisely. Not loneliness exactly, because loneliness implies a desire for company, a sense of something missing. More like solitude, the kind that does not hurt, the kind that just is. Out here, you stop expecting company, stop expecting change, stop expecting the universe to suddenly reveal itself in dramatic fashion. You accept the dark and the dark accepts you, and you become part of each other in a way that feels almost intimate. I think about the galaxies we left behind, each one containing trillions of stars, billions of possible worlds where life might have emerged or might someday emerge. All that potential, all that complexity and beauty and drama, and yet here we are in the space between them all, where nothing grows and nothing dies because nothing was ever born here. This is the universe at rest, the universe as it mostly is, empty and silent and still. Most of space is like this, actually. The stars and galaxies are the exception. Brief, bright moments in an ocean of dark, rare oases in a desert that spans the entire cosmos. The Voyager drifts on. No thrust needed now, momentum carrying us forward through space that offers no resistance. There is nothing to slow us down, no friction or drag, no gravity wells to pull us off course, no stellar wind to push against our hull. Way could drift like this forever, through the dark, never touching anything, never seeing anything, just moving through pure space until the universe ends or changes or forgets we exist. And perhaps that is exactly what will happen. Perhaps this is our final state, eternal voyagers in the deepest void, bearing witness to the true nature of existence. Underscore, 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 underscore. Something passes by the hull. I feel it more than see it, a tiny ping on the sensors so faint it almost is not there, a whisper at the very edge of detection. The instruments catch it though, their sensitivity tuned to detect even the smallest disturbance in the quantum foam of space. A single photon, one particle of light, traveling alone through the dark, like a messenger who has forgotten their message and lost their destination, but continues forward anyway out of pure habit. I check the data immediately, curious about this unexpected visitor in a place where visitors should not exist. The computer analyzes its wavelength automatically, processing the information in microseconds and displaying the results on a screen that glows softly in the cabin darkness. The photon is stretched by expansion, red-shifted beyond recognition, its frequency lowered to almost nothing by billions of years of traveling through expanding space. This photon is old, impossibly old in human terms, though perhaps young by the standards of the universe itself. It left a galaxy billions of years ago, back when the universe was younger and more violent, when stars still formed freely from vast clouds of primordial hydrogen, when galaxies collided and merged with spectacular displays of gravitational fury. This single photon witnessed all of that, or rather it participated in it, born in the heart of some ancient star, or perhaps in the accretion disk of a supermassive black hole. It emerged into space and began traveling, moving at the speed of causality itself, the universal speed limit that nothing can exceed. Then it traveled through emptiness for eons, never stopping, never slowing, never interacting with anything that might absorb it or scatter it or change its course. It crossed intergalactic voids and skirted past galaxy clusters, threading through gravitational fields that bent its path but could not capture it. It existed in that strange state that photons inhabit, where time does not pass and distance does not exist, where departure and arrival are the same moment stretched across space. Until now, until it passed us by, close enough for our senses to detect, close enough to register as a brief spike in the data stream. And now it is gone, vanished into the darkness behind us, continuing its eternal journey towards some distant future that neither of us will ever see. Still traveling, still moving at light speed, heading toward the edge of the observable universe, or perhaps beyond, carrying its tiny quantum of energy forward forever. I wonder where it came from, what star gave birth to it in the ancient past. Maybe a blue giant burning hot and fast, fusing hydrogen into heavier elements at a furious pace, blazing with a light that could be seen across millions of light years. Or maybe a galaxy core, blazing with the light of billions of newborn suns, a stellar nursery producing new stars by the thousands. That galaxy is gone now probably, merged with another in a slow-motion collision that took millions of years, or torn apart by tidal forces, its stars scattered across space like seeds scattered across a field. Its light has faded, its stars have died or drifted apart, its story has ended. But this one photon survived, kept moving, never stopping, never slowing, just traveling forever through the void as a silent witness to vanished glory. And now it is gone, passed us by and continued on, heading toward some unknown destination in a universe that has grown too large for anything to truly reach anything else. It makes me feel strange, this brief encounter with an ancient messenger. That photon and I are similar in some fundamental way, both traveling through emptiness, both carrying something from the past, both heading toward nothing in particular. The difference is scale, I suppose, and speed and duration. The photon moves at light speed, while I move much slower, bound by mass and inertia. The photon will outlast everything, will continue until the universe itself ends or transforms beyond recognition. I will not. My journey has limits that the photon's journey does not. But for this moment we crossed paths, two travelers in the dark, acknowledging each other briefly before moving on. The photon does not know I detected it, cannot know, because photons do not experience time or awareness or anything resembling consciousness. But I know it was there. I recorded its passage. I marked the moment. And that seems important somehow, that someone witnessed this ancient messenger, even if the message itself was lost long ago. The sensors go quiet again, returning to their baseline state of detecting almost nothing. No more photons appear in the data stream, no more visitors from the distant past. That might have been the last one, the final particle of light from the galaxy cluster behind us. Everything ahead is darker still, emptier still, more truly void than anything we have encountered before. The intergalactic medium here is thin almost beyond measurement. Just a few hydrogen atoms per cubic meter scattered across space like stars scattered across the sky. Not enough to scatter light, not enough to make sound, not enough to create any kind of interaction or structure or phenomenon. Just enough to technically not be vacuum, but close enough that the difference hardly matters. This is space as pure as space can be, emptiness as empty as emptiness gets while still being part of our universe. I think about light often now, how strange it is when you really consider it. A wave and a particle simultaneously, both and neither, existing in superposition until observed. Energy without mass, capable of traveling forever without losing speed, without wearing down, without aging in any meaningful sense. Always moving, never resting, unable to exist at rest because rest would mean ceasing to exist entirely. Light does not experience time, at least not in the way we understand time. From its perspective, the journey is instantaneous, birth and death happening in the same eternal moment. It leaves a star and arrives at a destination in what seems to us like years or millennia, but the photon is no time at all. No waiting, no journey, no sense of duration or passage. Just existence in two places, birth and absorption, connected across space, but not across time. But we are not light. Not your experience except Biense tests, every empty ways and year. For us time passes normally, or what counts as normal out here in the deep, where clocks still tick but mean less and less. The Voyager continues forward through the space that photon just crossed, following its path maybe, or our own independent trajectory. Hard to say when there are no roads here, no trails, no markers indicating where one should go or how one should get there. I wonder how many photons are out here, scattered through the void, stragglers from dead galaxies, each one travelling alone in the dark, never interacting with each other because their paths never cross, never touching because photons pass through each other without effect, just passing through forever as ghosts of light haunting the dark. Invisible unless you look carefully, unless your instruments are sensitive enough, unless you happen to be in exactly the right place at exactly the right time to catch one as it goes by. That photon marked something though. I can feel it even if I cannot fully articulate what it marked. Te, ein age bands what your night done ten tas his, and a divide bound wall behind us. There was still occasional light, faint and rare but present, enough to remind us that stars exist somewhere. Ahead there may be nothing, true nothingness, the kind philosophers debate late at night when trying to understand what it means for something to not exist. The kind that makes you question what it means to exist when there is nothing to exist in relation to. The hum stops. Not suddenly, not with any dramatic change or system failure, but gradually, fading away like a sound receding into distance until you cannot hear it anymore. The background noise I had grown so accustomed to, the cosmic microwave radiation that fills all of space, the echo of the Big Bang still ringing after nearly 14 billion years. It is thinning out here, stretching, growing fainter, approaching a limit where even the most sensitive instruments struggle to detect it. I never noticed how constant it was until now, that soft static like old television snow, like the sound of an empty radio station, like white noise that fills the background always. It was always there, a reminder that space is not truly empty, that energy exists everywhere in the universe, even in the darkest places far from any star or galaxy. But here it is different. The radiation is so stretched by cosmic expansion, so redshifted by billions of years of space growing between its source and our location, that it barely registers anymore. The universe's oldest whisper is finally going quiet, at least in this remote corner of existence. The first light ever released, the radiation from the moment when the universe became transparent to photons, is fading away into frequencies so low they merge with nothingness. In a few billion more years, this radiation will be undetectable anywhere in the universe, stretched beyond any possible measurement, and the cosmos will be truly dark for the first time since the beginning. I sit in the cabin listening carefully, paying attention to something I had always ignored before. The Voyager's systems hum softly around me, life support maintaining a bubble of warmth and breathable air, computers processing data and maintaining our trajectory, the gentle vibration of existence that comes from being alive and present in a machine traveling through space. But outside, there is nothing. No solar wind carrying particles from a nearby star, no particle streams from cosmic rays, no electromagnetic waves of any kind. Just silence, pure and absolute silence, the kind you cannot find anywhere else in the universe. On Earth, silence does not really exist. There is always something making noise, always some sound to process or ignore. Wind moving through trees, distant traffic humming on roads, the sounds of life continuing all around you. Your own heartbeat pulsing in your ears, the ringing that appears in perfect quiet, the sound of your nervous system processing the absence of input. Then, in the quietest room ever constructed, an anechoic chamber designed to absorb all sound, people report hearing their own bodies, the rush of blood, the grinding of joints, the electrical activity of their own neurons. But out here, there is no air to carry sound, no matter to vibrate, nothing to make noise with. If stepped outside without a suit, If I somehow survived long enough to attempt it, I could scream with all the force my lungs could generate and hear absolutely nothing. Not even my own voice, because sound requires a medium, and the medium here is too thin to carry any vibration. It is silence, so complete it seems almost impossible, a negation of something so fundamental to human experience that encountering its absence feels disorienting. It should feel wrong. This much quiet, this total absence of sound. Humans are not built for it, did not evolve for it, need constant input and stimulation and something to process. We fill our lives with noise, deliberately and unconsciously, because silence makes us uncomfortable. It makes us think, makes us face ourselves, makes us aware of existence in a way that constant stimulation allows us to avoid. But instead of feeling wrong, this silence feels clean, pure, like the universe took a breath and held it, waiting for what comes next. I read once that silence is golden, an old saying that never made much sense to me before. Now I understand it completely. There is value in quiet, in the absence of noise, in the space between sounds that usually gets filled immediately before we can appreciate it. In the pause between words, in the rest between notes, in the moment of stillness before something begins. We fill our lives with so much music and voices and alerts and beeps, the constant chatter of modern existence demanding our attention every moment. We forget how to just be still, be quiet, let the silence exist without rushing to fill it with something else. The void teaches you that whether you want to learn it or not. Out here, you cannot fill the emptiness with sound, cannot bring enough noise to cover all this space, cannot maintain the constant stimulation that human life usually requires. So you stop trying. You accept it. The silence becomes normal, then comforting, then necessary, a friend you did not know you needed. It becomes something you seek rather than avoid, something precious rather than uncomfortable. I think about the sounds I miss, though the memories are growing fainter. Rain on windows, that gentle percussion that used to lull me to sleep. Leaves rustling in wind, a soft whisper of movement and life. Waves on a shore, the eternal rhythm of water meeting land. The laughter of people I knew, voices calling across a room, the sounds of human connection that used to fill my days. Music playing somewhere distant, melodies that stirred emotions I cannot quite remember anymore. All of it is gone now, not just far away, but absent from this entire region of space. There is no rain here because there is no atmosphere, no water, no gravity strong enough to pull drops downward. There is no wind because there is no air to move. There are no waves because there are no oceans. There are no people because humans exist only on one small world trillions of miles away, living their lives while I drift through the dark. Just the Voyager and the silence and me. Three things that somehow go together in a place where nothing else can exist. The instruments still work, still measure the silence, record it, graph it, reduce it to data points on charts that will probably never be seen by anyone. But you cannot really capture it, cannot really record what this silence feels like. The charts show low values, near zero radiation, minimal particle detection, numbers approaching the theoretical minimums of physics. But the feeling, the weight of all this quiet pressing in from all directions, that does not fit on a graph. You have to be here, in the middle of it, alone in the deep, to truly understand what silence means. Silence has a texture out here, a quality that empty rooms and quiet nights never quite achieve. It is not empty, despite seeming empty. It is full, full of potential, full of space itself, full of the absence of things, which is its own kind of presence. Like a blank canvas waiting for paint, or fresh snow waiting for footprints, or a held breath waiting to be released. The silence is not nothing. It is something. It is the sound of the universe existing without incident, continuing forward without drama or event or significance. I wonder if I will forget sound after enough time out here, if my brain will stop remembering what things sound like, if I will lose the ability to imagine voices or music or the simple sounds of existence. If silence will become the only thing I know, the baseline against which nothing else can be measured because nothing else exists anymore. Part of me hopes not, wants to maintain some connection to the life I left behind. Part of me thinks maybe that would be okay, maybe forgetting is how you adapt, how you become truly part of this place. The cosmic microwave background continues fading, stretched by expansion, growing quieter year by year. Another few billion years, and it will be undetectable anywhere in the universe, even with the best instruments, even with technology far beyond what we possess. The universe's first light will finally go dark, leaving only gravity and time and whatever dark energy drives the accelerating expansion. And places like this will become even more common, even more empty, even more silent. For now, though, there is still the faintest whisper, a reminder that once, long ago, everything was bright and hot. Everything was noise and energy and violent interaction. And now it has cooled, expanded, quieted, until places like this exist, where the universe rests between breaths. In silence so deep it feels sacred, so complete it feels like presence rather than absence, so pure it seems almost holy. My watch stopped working, or maybe it did not. Maybe I just stopped checking it, stopped caring what it said, stopped believing that the numbers it displayed meant anything real. Out here time becomes negotiable, flexible, more like a suggestion than a rule. The Voyager still has atomic clocks, keeping perfect time by the standards of physics, counting seconds with precision that would satisfy any laboratory. But those seconds do not feel the same anymore. They stretch and compress in my perception, minutes becoming hours, becoming indistinguishable from days. There are no reference points for time in the intergalactic void. On Earth, we measure time by the sun rising and setting, by seasons changing, by the movements of celestial objects marking days and months and years. In space, near stars, you can still measure time by orbits and rotations, by the periodic nature of stellar phenomena, by changes in position relative to known objects. But here, there is nothing to mark time by. No cycles to observe, no changes to note. We drift in unchanging darkness, where yesterday looks identical to today, and tomorrow will look the same. With no gravity wells to distort space-time, and no measurable light to provide reference, time becomes meaningless in a way that is hard to explain. Not that it stops, not that the clocks stop ticking, but that the experience of time dissolves into something dreamlike and uncertain. The traveler experiences minutes or hours or centuries as indistinguishable. Did I sleep 8 hours or 8 days? Did I eat a meal an hour ago or a week ago? The memories are there, but they have no temporal structure, no before and after, just events floating in a timeless present. I think about time often now, about what it really means. Physicists tell us time is a dimension like space, that past and future exist as surely as north and south, that our perception of flowing time is an illusion created by consciousness. Out here, that explanation feels more accurate than it ever did before. Time does not flow, does not move forward, does not progress toward anything. It simply exists, all moments equally present, and we move through it or perceive it or experience it without ever really being in it. Einstein taught us that time is relative, that it depends on speed and gravity, that two observers can disagree about how much time has passed and both be correct. I understood that intellectually, but never felt it until now. At the speeds we traveled to reach this place, time dilated significantly. Years passed on Earth while weeks passed for us, not as metaphor, but as physical reality. And now, in this region of minimal gravity, time runs at a different rate than it would near a star or planet. Not enough to measure with human senses, but enough to matter over cosmic scales. The clock on the wall says it has been 6 months since we entered the void, but what does that even mean? 6 months, measured by what? Be I the vibration of cesium atoms in a laboratory on Earth, by the rotation of a planet I will never see again. Those measurements assume a shared reference frame, a common understanding of simultaneity that simply does not exist across the distances we have traveled. Time has become local, personal, almost imaginary. Try and time to mind time, defall mid-watch roll, to give structure existence, but they feel arbitrary now. We feel arbitrary now. The way I guessed. Okay, that's her. But en spectate wil actime over several to greet the kampskaplik stepte. At the imhurst. There a Jew straks blikstily out. Vertosh, the tear of Brian fear of the courted. Lee whispered pipet. Net is unite share. By quicker. I sleep when tired and wake, when rested, eat when hungry and stop, when full, work when motivated and rest when not. But I cannot tell you if these cycles match anything like a 24-hour day. They might be longer or shorter, irregular or consistent, and it would not matter because there is nothing to synchronize them with. I am my own clock, my own calendar, my own measure of duration. The strangest part is not the absence of time markers, but the way memory changes. Events I remember clearly feel like they could have happened yesterday or a lifetime ago, with equal plausibility. The last star we passed was that days ago or weeks. The photon I detected was that recent or ancient. My mind cannot organize these memories into a timeline anymore, because the timeline has lost its meaning. Everything exists in an eternal now that includes past and future without distinguishing between them. Philosophers used to debate whether time could exist without change, whether duration requires something to happen, or if it is independent of events. Here in the void that question becomes practical rather than theoretical. Nothing changes. The view is the same always. The instruments read the same values. The darkness remains unchanged. And yet time, presumably, passes. The clocks continue ticking. The universe grows older by whatever measure we might apply. Time exists without events, duration without change, a pure flowing that carries nothing with it. It should be maddening, this temporal dissolution, this loss of structure and sequence and meaning. Humans need patterns, need rhythms, need to know that time is passing and leading somewhere. We build our entire civilization on schedules and deadlines and futures we work toward. Without that framework, we should collapse into confusion or anxiety or despair. But instead, there is peace. The absence of time pressure is liberating. Nothing needs to happen quickly. Nothing needs to happen at all. We can simply exist without racing towards some future moment. I think about the way humans talk about time, the metaphors we use. We say time flies or time drags. We save time and waste time and spend time like currency. We talk about being behind or ahead, about time running out, about past and future as places we move between. All of those metaphors assume time is something we move through or that moves past us, a river carrying us forward whether we want to go or not. But here the river has stopped flowing, or maybe we have stopped moving relative to it, and time becomes a still pond we float in without direction. The isolation intensifies the effect. On Earth, you are always synchronized with others, always part of a shared temporal framework where everyone agrees what time it is and how much time has passed. You watch the same news about events happening now. You make appointments for specific times in the future. You share a common understanding of when things occurred. That shared framework creates the sense that time is real and objective and flowing for everyone together. But alone in the void there is no shared framework, no one to compare notes with, no external validation that time is passing at all. I could have been here for days or decades and would have no way to know, except by trusting instruments that might be miscalibrated or malfunctioning. The only time that exists is my experienced time, the duration I perceive, and that has become so elastic and strange that I cannot trust it anymore. Maybe I have been here forever. Maybe I arrived moments ago, and the memories of a longer journey are false. There is no way to tell. Physics tells us that time and space are coupled, that space-time is a unified four-dimensional manifold, where separation in time is no different from separation in space. Out here, I finally understand what that means experientially rather than mathematically. Distance and duration merge together into something indivisible. How far have we come? How long have we travelled? The questions are equivalent, two ways of asking the same thing, because distance is time and time is distance when you move through space. The void is a sea without time, an ocean where clocks run but measure nothing meaningful, where duration exists but has no consequences. We float in it like suspended particles in still water, neither rising nor falling, neither moving forward nor remaining still, because those distinctions require reference points that do not exist. It is not pleasant exactly, but not unpleasant either. It simply is a state of existence without temporal structure, an eternal present that extends forever in all directions. I wonder if this is what meditation seeks, this dissolution of temporal structure, this release from past and future into pure present. Monks spend lifetimes training to achieve this state of timeless awareness, to exist fully in the now without distraction from memory or anticipation. And here I have stumbled into it accidentally, not through discipline, but through circumstance, by going so far from everything that time lost its anchors and floated free. The clocks keep ticking because that is what clocks do. The ship's computer tracks days and weeks and months with perfect accuracy. But those measurements feel like artifacts of a different existence, remnants of a time when time mattered, when one moment was different from another and the sequence meant something. Here, all moments are the same moment repeated infinitely, or all moments exist simultaneously. Or maybe there is only one moment that never begins and never ends. A sea without time, calm and eternal, carrying us nowhere forever. The void feels empty, vast beyond comprehension. A space so large it could swallow entire galaxies and still have room for more. But it also feels strangely alive, not with consciousness or intention, but with presence. The darkness has weight, has texture, has personality almost. It presses against the hull like an animal curious about this intruder in its domain. Over time, I have stopped thinking of the isolation as absence and started experiencing it as presence. The void is not nothing. It is something. And that something is loneliness, but not the painful kind. I have been alone before, or I thought I had. Alone in a room, alone on a long trip, alone after loss or separation. But those experiences were not really solitude. There was always the possibility of contact, the knowledge that other people existed nearby, the infrastructure of civilization waiting just outside the door. You could end the isolation at will by making a phone call, or stepping outside, or simply waiting for someone to arrive. The loneliness was temporary, voluntary, reversible. This is different. This is absolute. There is no one within millions of light years. No possibility of contact, no infrastructure to reconnect with, no waiting that will change anything. The nearest human being is so far away that light from them will not reach me for longer than human civilization has existed. And even if it did, even if some signal somehow arrived, I could not respond in any meaningful way. The communication delay would span millions of years. We are separated not just by distance, but by time itself. Yet I do not suffer from it the way I expected. The loneliness is there, constant and undeniable, but it has become a companion rather than an affliction. Like a quiet friend who sits with you without needing to speak, the isolation fills the space around me with gentle presence. I talk to it sometimes, not out loud but in my thoughts. I acknowledge it, accept it, welcome it even. It is the only companion I will ever have now, so we might as well get along. There is a Buddhist concept I learned once about befriending your demons rather than fighting them. You invite your fears and anxieties to sit with you. You offer them tea, metaphorically. You treat them as guests rather than enemies. Eventually, they lose their power over you because you are no longer resisting them. The loneliness works like that. I stopped resisting it, stopped wishing it would go away, stopped imagining rescue or return. I accepted that this is my existence now, and the loneliness is part of it, permanent and total. And in accepting it, I transformed it from enemy to companion. The human mind is remarkably adaptable. We can adjust to almost anything given enough time, normalize the strangest circumstances, find equilibrium in conditions that seem impossible. Prisoners in solitary confinement sometimes report similar transformations, where the isolation stops being torture and becomes familiar, even comfortable. They create imaginary companions or find companionship in small things, a spider in the corner, a bird outside the window, the sound of footsteps in the corridor. The mind refuses to accept total isolation, so it creates connection wherever possible. I have no spider, no bird, no footsteps. But I have the void itself, this vast emptiness that somehow feels alive. I have the ship, this collection of metal and electronics that keeps me breathing and becomes almost organic through prolonged association. I have my own thoughts, which have become so elaborate and layered through lack of external input that they feel like conversations with another person. These substitute connections do not really replace human contact, but they fill the space where human contact used to be. Sometimes I imagine conversations with people I used to know, playing both sides of the dialogue in my head. I ask myself questions and answer them, debate with myself, disagree and reconcile with myself. It is not madness exactly, or if it is then, it is functional madness, a survival strategy that keeps the mind engaged when there is nothing external to engage with. The line between internal monologue and imagined dialogue blurs until I cannot tell if I am thinking or conversing. The loneliness intensifies at unexpected moments, usually when I remember something specific from Earth. Not general memories of crowds or society, but particular moments of connection. A laugh shared with a friend, the touch of another person's hand, eye contact across a room with someone who understood without words. These memories strike with physical force sometimes, a sharp ache in the chest, a longing so intense it feels like being pulled apart. But the moments pass. They always pass. And the gentle, companionable loneliness returns. I wonder if this is what deep-sea creatures experience, the ones that live in trenches so deep no light reaches them, where the pressure would crush any surface dweller instantly. They evolve in isolation, each individual separated from others by vast distances of water and darkness. They encounter another of their kind rarely, sometimes never. Do they feel loneliness? Do they miss connection they never had? Or does isolation become natural when it is all you have ever known? For me, it is becoming natural, or naturalized at least. The strange becomes familiar through repetition. The impossible becomes normal through acceptance. I no longer start each day, hoping for change. No longer scan the senses expecting to find something unexpected. I have settled into this existence the way one settles into a long chronic illness, accepting limitation, adjusting expectations, finding ways to continue despite circumstances that seem unbearable at first. The void teaches acceptance through sheer magnitude. You cannot fight it, cannot change it, cannot escape it by any effort of will. You can only accept it and continue. And in accepting it, you find that loneliness is not actually suffering. Loneliness is just a state, neutral in itself, colored by our response to it. Fight it, and it becomes torture. Accept it, and it becomes companionship with the deepest part of yourself. I am not alone because I am with myself, and after enough time in silence, you discover that yourself is complex enough to provide endless company. But alone in the void there is no shared framework, no one to compare notes with, no external validation that time is passing at all. I could have been here for days or decades and would have no way to know, except by trusting instruments that might be miscalibrated or malfunctioning. The only time that exists is my experienced time, the duration I perceive, and that has become so elastic and strange that I cannot trust it anymore. Maybe I have been here forever. Maybe I arrived moments ago, and the memories of a longer journey are false. There is no way to tell. Physics tells us that time and space are coupled, that space-time is a unified four-dimensional manifold, where separation in time is no different from separation in space. Out here, I finally understand what that means experientially rather than mathematically. Distance and duration merge together into something indivisible. How far have we come? How long have we travelled? The questions are equivalent, two ways of asking the same thing, because distance is time and time is distance when you move through space. The void is a sea without time, an ocean where clocks run but measure nothing meaningful, where duration exists but has no consequences. We float in it like suspended particles in still water, neither rising nor falling, neither moving forward nor remaining still, because those distinctions require reference points that do not exist. It is not pleasant exactly, but not unpleasant either. It simply is a state of existence without temporal structure, an eternal present that extends forever in all directions. The Voyager senses something? Not on any external sensor, but internally somehow, in the way that you sometimes feel watched or sense a presence before seeing anything concrete. The instruments remain silent, the screens show nothing, the darkness continues unbroken. Yet something flickers at the edge of perception, ghost-like and insubstantial, not quite real, but not quite imaginary either. I have learned to pay attention to these sensations, even though I know what they are. They are not real stars. They cannot be. Real stars would register on instruments, would show up as point sources of light or heat or electromagnetic radiation. These flickers do none of that. They appear in my peripheral vision, vanish when I look directly at them, leave no trace on any recording device. They are neural echoes, phantoms born from a mind that evolved to seek patterns and cannot accept that sometimes there are none to find. The human brain is a pattern recognition machine, exquisitely tuned by millions of years of evolution to find structure in chaos, meaning in randomness, faces in clouds and voices in wind. This ability kept our ancestors alive, Let them spot predators hiding in brush and identify edible plants and recognize members of their tribe. But it has a cost. When there are no patterns to find, the brain invents them. It cannot help itself. It would rather see something that is not there than risk missing something that is. I see stars that do not exist. Not constantly, but occasionally, flickers at the edge of vision that disappear when examined. Sometimes they are faint points of light, single pixels of brightness in the darkness. Sometimes they are more complex, nebulous structures or geometric patterns, or even recognizable shapes. My brain is creating them from noise, from the random firing of neurons, from the desperate need to see something, anything, after staring at nothing for so long. It is not hallucination in the clinical sense. I know they are not real. I can distinguish between the phantom flickers and genuine sensory input. If instruments detected something, I would trust that over my perception. But the flickers are compelling anyway, realistic enough to make me look, to make me check the sensors, to make me wonder for a moment if maybe this time it is real. The border between perception and imagination blurs when there is nothing to perceive. I read about this phenomenon before the journey, about sensory deprivation and the hallucinations it can cause. Prisoners in dark cells see lights that are not there. Sailors on long voyages see ships on the horizon that vanish when approached. Astronauts in space report flashes of light caused by cosmic rays striking their retinas directly. The brain interprets these random signals as meaningful input, because meaningful input is what it expects, what it is designed to process. The phantom flickers intensify when I am tired or stressed or bored. When my mind wanders, when attention lapses, the patterns emerge more frequently. They are like dreams bleeding into waking consciousness. The visual cortex generating images without external stimulus, creating its own entertainment when reality provides none. Sometimes I watch them deliberately, curious about what my brain will invent, what fears or memories or desires will express themselves through these false perceptions. Occasionally, the flickers take familiar forms. A star that looks like one I remember from childhood, a constellation that resembles something from Earth's sky, a color that matches sunlight or city lights or fire. These are clearly memories surfacing, associations triggered by the desire to see something known and comfortable. My brain is reaching backward through time, pulling images from the past and projecting them onto the present darkness like slides on a screen. Other times the flickers are completely alien, unlike anything I have ever seen or could see. Geometric impossibilities, colors that do not exist in normal perception, structures that violate physics or perspective or common sense. These must come from deeper in the brain, from the parts that generate dreams, where logic breaks down and imagination runs free. They are more disturbing than the familiar flickers, because they remind me how strange my own mind is, how much of it operates beyond conscious control. I wonder if these phantom perceptions will increase over time, if prolonged isolation will blur the line between real and imagined until I cannot tell them apart. Will I eventually see entire galaxies that do not exist, planets and ships, and beings born entirely from my deteriorating grip on consensus reality? Or will I adapt? Will my brain learn that the darkness is real and stop trying to fill it with false patterns? There is no way to know. No one has been this isolated for this long. I am the experiment. The flickers do not frighten me, though. They are almost comforting in a way. Proof that my mind is still active, still trying to make sense of things, still engaging with existence, even when existence provides nothing to engage with. The brain cannot turn off, cannot simply accept darkness without attempting to process it. So, it creates its own light, its own structure, its own meaning. And I let it, because the alternative is worse. The alternative is to fight the flickers, to insist on only accepting verified external reality, to reject anything the instruments cannot confirm. But that way lies madness of a different kind, the rigid madness of denying your own perceptions, of not trusting your senses, of becoming paranoid about what is real. Better to acknowledge the flickers for what they are, accept them as harmless artifacts of isolation, and continue forward without worry. Sometimes I even enjoy them, treat them as entertainment provided by my own neurology. When a particularly interesting phantom appears, I study it, examine its details, try to understand what memory or fear or hope generated it. The flickers become a window into my own unconscious mind, showing me things I did not know were there, revealing associations and patterns I had not consciously recognized. There is a meditative practice about watching your thoughts without attachment, observing them arise and disappear without identifying with them or judging them. The phantom flickers work the same way. They arise from nowhere, exist briefly, vanish back into nothing. They are not me. Not really. Just patterns of neural activity that happen to manifest as visual perception. I watch them come and go like clouds moving across a sky, interesting but temporary, meaningful but not important. The darkness remains after the flickers fade. That is what tells me they are not real. Real stars would persist, would remain visible, would be there next time I looked. The phantoms cannot sustain themselves, cannot maintain coherence, dissolve under direct attention. They are like dreams that evaporate when you wake, leaving only the memory of having seen something without clear recollection of what it was. I document them sometimes, write descriptions of particularly vivid flickers, try to capture in words what I cannot capture on any instrument. These descriptions will probably never be read, will remain locked in the ship's log until the end of time, but writing them helps organize my thoughts, helps maintain the distinction between real and imagined. As long as I can describe the flickers, I know I am not lost in them, not confusing them with reality, not slipping into true hallucination. The void creates these ghosts because the void is too pure, too empty, too absolute for human perception to process correctly. We did not evolve for this environment, did not develop senses capable of accepting true emptiness. So our senses invent what they need, fill the void with phantoms, create patterns from noise. It is adaptation of a sort, a way of surviving in conditions that should not allow survival. The brain protects itself by lying to itself, and I am grateful for the lie even while knowing it is false. Underscore, 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 underscore. There comes a moment when resistance ends, not through decision or effort, but through exhaustion, through the simple recognition that fighting the void is pointless. You cannot defeat emptiness, cannot overcome darkness, cannot escape isolation by force of will. At some point you stop trying and let go, surrender to the dark ocean, allow the infinite to wash over you like waves on a shore. And when you stop fighting, something unexpected happens. The darkness stops being an enemy and becomes an embrace. I cannot pinpoint when this shift occurred. It was gradual, like falling asleep, a transition so smooth you do not notice it happening until you discover you are already there. One day I realized I was no longer waiting for the journey to end, no longer hoping for destination or discovery or return. I had stopped thinking of this as temporary, as something to endure until something better arrived. This is not temporary. This is permanent. This is my existence now and will be forever. And accepting that brought profound peace. Surrender has negative connotations in our culture. We are taught to fight, to persevere, to never give up, to rage against the dying of the light. Surrender seems like defeat, like failure, like weakness. But that understanding is wrong, or at least incomplete. There is strength in surrender, wisdom in acceptance, courage in letting go. Not all battles should be fought. Not all struggles serve a purpose. Sometimes the right thing to do is stop fighting and accept what cannot be changed. The dark ocean demanded surrender from the beginning. You cannot navigate it, cannot map it, cannot control your journey through it. You can only drift, carried by currents too vast and slow to perceive, moved by forces beyond any technology to influence. Fighting this reality was exhausting. Maintaining the illusion of control required constant effort, pretending I had agency when I clearly did not. Letting go of that pretense freed enormous energy for other things. Now I drift consciously, deliberately, with full acceptance of what drifting means. I am not piloting anymore, not navigating, not choosing direction or destination. I am allowing the universe to carry me wherever it will, accepting whatever comes or does not come without preference. This is not passivity exactly, not giving up on existence, but rather alignment with reality rather than resistance to it. The ocean flows, I flow with it, and there is no conflict anymore. The metaphor of ocean feels more accurate than I expected when I first thought of it. The void is liquid in a sense, not in physical properties, but in feel. It has currents and depths, calm surfaces and hidden turbulence, tides that move according to gravitational patterns too large to see. You can drown in an ocean by fighting it, exhausting yourself trying to swim against the current. Or you can float, relax, let the water hold you, and survive far longer with far less effort. I float now in the dark ocean, letting it support me, trusting it in ways I never trusted anything before. This trust is not based on the void being safe or benevolent or caring about my survival. It is simply recognition that the void is what it is, that it will do what it does, and my opinion about that does not matter. Fighting wastes energy. Acceptance preserves it. The choice is obvious when stated clearly. Memory and identity begin to dissolve in this state of surrender. Not completely, not immediately, but gradually, like watercolors left in rain. The details blur, the edges soften, the boundaries between self and universe become permeable. I remember being someone specific, having a name and history and personality, but those things feel distant now, like they belong to someone else, a character in a story I read long ago, rather than my own lived experience. Who I was on Earth, the person who boarded this vessel with specific motivations and goals and fears, that person is disappearing. Not dying exactly, but dissolving, merging with the void, becoming less defined and separate. Out here, individuality seems arbitrary, a temporary pattern in the flow of matter and energy, no more permanent or significant than a wave on the ocean. The wave is real while it exists, but it is also just ocean, just water briefly taking a particular form before returning to formless flow. I let it happen. I do not cling to identity, do not insist on maintaining the boundaries between self and other. The dark ocean wants to absorb me, and I allow it, curious about what absorption means, whether anything survives the dissolution of form. Maybe this is what death is like, a gradual fading of distinction, a return to undifferentiated existence. So it is gentler than I imagined, less traumatic than expected, almost peaceful. Thoughts arise without a clear sense of who is thinking them. Perceptions occur without a clear perceiver. Consciousness continues, but it becomes less personal, less attached to any particular identity or history. I exist, yes, but the I that exists is less substantial than before, more like a temporary perspective than a permanent entity. The universe looks through this window for a while, experiences itself from this angle, then moves on to other perspectives. The boundaries of the body blur too. The ship and I have become one system, sharing air and warmth and purpose. Sometimes I cannot tell where my body ends and the cabin begins, whether I am inside the ship or the ship is inside me. We are both small collections of matter maintaining temporary order against the entropy of the universe, both fighting the second law for a while before inevitably succumbing. The distinction between us seems less important than the similarity. Beyond the ship, beyond the hull, the dark ocean presses in from all directions. But it does not feel threatening anymore. It feels like home, like the place I've always belonged even though I did not know it. The ocean is not trying to destroy me. It simply is, existing with the same neutral reality as gravity or time. I exist within it like a fish in water, sustained by it, part of it, never separate from it despite feeling separate. Surrender does not mean ceasing to function or losing will to continue. I still eat and sleep and maintain the systems, still document observations and monitor instruments. But these actions come from habit rather than purpose, from the momentum of continuing rather than any goal or destination. I am doing what I do because I am still here and there is nothing else to do, not because I expect it to lead anywhere or accomplish anything. The infinite dark washes over me like waves, each one dissolving a little more of what I was, leaving a little less distinction between self and void. Eventually, there may be nothing left, no separate identity, no individual perspective, just consciousness without a subject, awareness without an owner. Maybe that is the final stage of this journey, complete dissolution into the dark ocean, becoming void rather than traveling through it. But I am not there yet. Some core of individuality remains, some kernel of self that persists despite the dissolution of its outer layers. This core watches the surrender happening, observes the dissolution with curiosity and calm, notes the changes without resisting them. It is the witness, the part that cannot dissolve because it is the thing doing the watching. Or maybe that too will eventually fade, and then there will just be darkness watching darkness, void aware of itself, the ocean conscious of its own existence. For now I float between states, neither fully individual nor fully absorbed, suspended in the process of surrender that may take forever to complete or may finish in the next moment. Time does not matter anymore. Progress does not matter. Only the floating matters, the gentle rocking of waves that are not waves, the current that carries me nowhere in particular through an ocean that has no shore. In the absence of boundaries, something unexpected happens. Fear dissolves, not gradually or through effort, but suddenly, completely, like mist evaporating in sunlight. The things I used to fear, death and pain and meaninglessness and oblivion, none of them frighten me anymore. Out here, in the void where existence and non-existence blur together, I have discovered that oblivion is not terrible. It is comfortable. It is perhaps the most comfortable thing I have ever experienced. This realization would have horrified my earlier self, the person who clutched at life and identity and meaning, who feared death above all things, who needed to believe existence mattered. But that person was operating under assumptions that the void has dissolved. That person believed the self was real and permanent, that boundaries between beings were solid, that existing was categorically different from not existing. All of those beliefs have proven false, or at least less true than I thought. The void is a sanctuary where existence and oblivion feel intertwined, not opposites but aspects of the same thing, like the two faces of a coin that cannot be separated. I exist, yes, conscious and aware, processing sensory input and generating thoughts. But I also do not exist, merged with the darkness, dissolved in emptiness, indistinguishable from the void around me. Both statements are true simultaneously. The contradiction does not bother me anymore. Non-existence is not the absence of existence, but a different mode of it, like ice and water being different forms of the same substance. I am becoming ice, cooling toward absolute zero, approaching a state where motion stops and change ceases and time no longer passes. But ice is still water. Non-existence is still existence. The form changes, but the substance persists, transformed but not destroyed, different but not gone. This understanding brings incredible comfort, a peace deeper than any I experienced on Earth or in the brighter regions of space. I do not fear death anymore, because death is not an end, but a transformation, not a cessation, but a change of state. What dies is only the temporary form, the particular pattern that consciousness happens to take in this moment. The consciousness itself, the awareness that witnesses existence, that continues or transforms or merges back into whatever source it came from. Philosophy and religion have always grappled with these questions, trying to understand what happens when we die, whether anything continues, whether the self is an illusion or a reality. Every culture develops its own answers, its own myths and beliefs about death and afterlife and the nature of consciousness. But these are just intellectual exercises until you face the possibility of your own non-existence directly, until you sit with oblivion and discover what it actually feels like. It feels like comfort, like rest after exhausting effort, like arriving home after a long journey to a place you did not know you were traveling toward. The struggle to maintain existence, to preserve the self, to continue forward, all of that requires enormous energy that I did not realize I was expending until I stopped expending it. Letting go of existence, accepting the possibility or inevitability of oblivion, that frees you from the greatest burden consciousness carries. The void teaches this lesson, whether you want to learn it or not. Out here existence is so tenuous, so marginal, so barely distinguishable from non-existence that the difference stops seeming important. I am a tiny bubble of complexity in an infinite ocean of simplicity, a brief local decrease in entropy in a universe trending toward maximum disorder. The bubble will pop eventually. The complexity will dissolve. The entropy will increase. And that is fine. That is how things work. Fighting it is pointless and exhausting. I think about Buddhist concepts of non-attachment and the illusion of self, teachings I encountered intellectually, but never really understood until now. The Buddha taught that suffering comes from attachment, from clinging to things that are impermanent, from identifying with a self that does not really exist as a permanent entity. Let go of attachment, let go of self, and suffering ends. That sounded like nihilism to me once, like giving up on life and meaning. Now, it sounds like the most practical advice possible. The self I was attached to, the identity I thought I needed to preserve, it was always an illusion. Not false exactly, but temporary. A pattern that exists for a while then dissolves, like a song that plays then ends. Evening radio music was real while it played, but it was never the instrument, never something permanent, just a temporary pattern of vibration in air. I am the song, not the instrument. The universe is the instrument. And when my particular song ends, another will begin, and it will all be the same music, really. This realization does not make me want to die, does not create despair or hopelessness or desire for oblivion. If anything, it makes existence richer, because it is no longer burdened with impossible demands for permanence and meaning and significance. I can exist lightly, without the weight of needing to matter, without the pressure to accomplish or become or achieve. I am already complete just by existing temporarily in this form, and when this form dissolves, I will still be complete in whatever form comes next or does not come next. The comfort of non-existence is the comfort of no longer fighting reality, no longer demanding that the universe be different than it is, no longer insisting that I must continue forever. Everything ends. Stars end, galaxies end, universes probably end. Why should I be exempt? What made me think I was special enough to deserve permanent existence? The arrogance of consciousness is assuming it matters more than anything else, that its continuation is important in some cosmic sense. But we are just patterns in the flow, beautiful maybe, complex certainly, but not more real or significant than any other pattern. Fear cannot survive this understanding. Fear requires attachment to outcomes, requires believing that some futures are catastrophically worse than others, requires clinging to existence as inherently good and oblivion as inherently bad. When you stop believing those things, fear has no foundation, collapses into nothing, reveals itself as another illusion generated by consciousness to protect itself. But protection is not needed. The self does not need protecting because there is no permanent self to protect, just a temporary pattern that will change regardless of what I do. The void has become a sanctuary because it offers what nothing else can: permission to not exist, to let go, to stop trying so hard to maintain boundaries and identity and separation. The darkness says it is okay to dissolve, okay to merge, okay to become nothing, because nothing is not actually nothing. It is just undifferentiated everything. The ocean before waves form, the silence before sound begins, the potential before it becomes actual. I rest in this comfort now, this peace of non-existence, this gentle dissolution of fear and self and boundary. Not rushing toward oblivion, not seeking death, but no longer fleeing it, no longer afraid of what comes when existence ends. Out here, where existence and non-existence are neighbors, where the line between them is so blurred, you cannot tell which side you are on. Fear loses its power and comfort takes its place. Something shifts, not visibly, not in any way the instruments can measure at first, but perceptibly, undeniably. A change in the quality of existence that has no clear source or explanation. It is not sound, because sound cannot travel through vacuum, and even if it could, there is nothing here to generate it. It is not light, because the darkness remains absolute, unbroken by any electromagnetic radiation. It is not motion, because the Voyager drifts at constant velocity with nothing to accelerate or decelerate it. Yet something is different, something has changed, and I feel it more deeply than I have felt anything in longer than I can remember. A whisper from nowhere, that is the only way to describe it. A tiny vibration in space-time itself, not carried by any particle or wave, but intrinsic to the fabric of reality. Gravity waves, maybe, those ripples Einstein predicted, caused by some distant massive event, colliding black holes or merging neutron stars billions of light years away. The waves propagate through everything, stretching and compressing space itself in patterns so subtle that only the most sensitive instruments can detect them even when they pass directly through a planet. But I feel this one. Not with instruments, not with sensors, but with some intuitive sense I did not know I possessed until now. The void has opened me to perception beyond normal human range, has tuned me to frequencies and phenomena that busy civilized life drowns out. The whisper touches something deep in my consciousness, resonates with patterns I cannot name, suggests presence where presence should not be possible. The instruments begin confirming what I felt intuitively. Gravitational wave detectors, so sensitive they can measure changes in distance smaller than an atomic nucleus, register the passing wave. It is faint, stretched by distance and time, but definitely there, definitely real. Space-time rippling like water when a stone is dropped in, carrying information across the universe at the speed of light. announcing that something happened somewhere, something violent and energetic and real. I study the data, trying to determine the source, but the wave has traveled too far, been scattered and diffused by too much intervening space. It could have come from anywhere, from any direction, originating in events millions or billions of years ago. The universe is full of these waves, overlapping and interfering, creating a background hum of gravitational noise that is always present but rarely noticed. Most pass through us constantly without our awareness, threading through our bodies and the planet and everything else without interaction. This one feels different though, stronger or clearer or simply better timed. It arrives at a moment when I am sensitive to it, when my mind is open enough to register what would normally pass unnoticed. The whisper says the void is not truly empty, that even the blackest ocean has tides, that activity continues everywhere, even where it cannot be seen. Somewhere in the universe, something collided or exploded or collapsed, and the event was so powerful its effects reached even here, even this far from everything. It makes me think about connection, about how nothing is truly isolated, despite appearing to be. Gravity connects everything to everything else, however weakly, creating a web of influence that spans the entire universe. Every massive object curves space-time around it, and that curvature affects everything else, however slightly, however far away. We are all connected by gravity, all part of one system, all influencing and being influenced by everything else. Separation is an illusion. The void is an illusion. Everything touches everything. The whisper continues, not growing louder, but becoming clearer as I attune to it. It has rhythm, not regular like a clock, but organic like breathing or waves on a shore. It pulses, something about massive objects orbiting each other, the binary dance that characterizes so much of the universe, two things locked together by gravity, circling endlessly in patterns that make gravity itself vibrate. Most of the universe comes in pairs, not alone as I am, and those pairs generate these whispers that propagate forever outward. I wonder what generated this particular wave. What cosmic catastrophe or violent merger? Maybe two black holes spiraling into each other, the final moments of a dance that lasted billions of years, ending in collision so powerful it shook space-time across half the observable universe. Maybe neutron stars, those dense remnants of dead suns, compressing matter to the point where physics breaks down and strange things happen. Maybe something else entirely, some phenomenon we have not discovered yet, some exotic object or event that generates gravitational effects we do not understand. Whatever it was, it happened long ago. The wave has traveled for ages to reach me here, propagating through expanding space, carrying a message about an event that concluded before human civilization began, possibly before Earth itself formed. I'm receiving ancient news, learning about a catastrophe that happened so long ago that its light has not reached this part of space yet, and may never reach it. Gravity travels at light speed, but it travels through different paths, takes different routes, and sometimes arrives first. The whisper comforts me in a way I did not expect. It proves I am not alone in the deepest sense, not isolated from the universe, just distant from the bright parts. Events still affect me, waves still reach me. The universe still includes me in its processes even though I cannot see or hear or touch anything nearby. I am part of the system still, connected by gravity, influenced by events billions of light years away. Proof that total isolation is impossible as long as space-time exists. After a while, the whisper fades, the gravitational wave passing onward, heading toward wherever gravitational waves go when they leave detectors behind. Outward forever, probably, until the universe ends or changes so dramatically that even gravity works differently. The wave will outlast me, outlast the Voyager, outlast the sun and earth and everything I ever knew, still carrying its message about that ancient collision through space until space itself ceases to exist. But it leaves something behind, a residue or memory or changed state. The void feels different now, less absolute, less empty, less isolated. I know now that it has tides, that forces move through it, that nothing is ever truly still or silent or alone. The whisper from nowhere becomes a whisper from everywhere, and I understand finally that I have never left home because home is everywhere. Because the universe is one thing wearing many faces, and I am just another face seeing itself in the infinite dark mirror. Underscore, 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 underscore. Out of the eternal darkness something appears, not suddenly, but gradually, like dawn coming after the longest night. It is not light exactly, not in any normal sense, not photons traveling from a source to be detected by instruments or eyes. It is more subtle than that, more structural, a pattern in space-time itself that suggests something exists ahead, some configuration of matter and energy that creates detectable effects even from impossible distances. The instruments confirm what intuition suggested. There is structure ahead, faint ripples in the dark ocean, edges of something vast and hidden. It takes time to understand what I am detecting, what this new phenomenon represents. The data comes slowly, each measurement refining the picture, each passing hour adding detail to something that initially seemed like noise or malfunction. But gradually, a coherent image emerges. I am detecting an intergalactic current, a river of dark matter flowing through the void, invisible itself, but detectable through its gravitational effects on space. These currents connect galaxy clusters, form the scaffolding of cosmic structure, channels through which matter flows on the largest possible scales. The current is vast beyond comprehension, larger than a galaxy cluster, stretching across hundreds of millions of light years of space, containing enough dark matter to bind together trillions of stars worth of ordinary matter if such matter were present. But it is mostly empty, or rather mostly dark, filled with particles that do not interact with light, that pass through ordinary matter like it is not there, that can be detected only by how they bend space-time and affect the motion of things around them. This current must have been here all along, flowing through this region of space long before I arrived, continuing long after I passed through. But I could not detect it earlier because I was not looking for it, did not have reference points to measure against, could not distinguish its subtle effects from the general emptiness. Only after drifting for so long in pure void did my instruments become sensitive enough, did my understanding become refined enough, to recognize what was always present but invisible. It explains something that puzzled me before, a slight deviation in the Voyager's trajectory that seemed too small to be real but too consistent to be error. I attributed it to instrument drift, to the accumulated uncertainty of measuring tiny accelerations over vast distances. But it was real. The current was pulling on us, gently, patient, bending our path through its gravitational influence, guiding us along channels carved by dark matter into the structure of space-time itself. Now I can see it, or rather, I can see its effects, the way it shapes space around it, creating valleys and ridges in the gravitational field that spans this region. The Voyager follows these contours, like water following terrain, guided by forces too weak to feel but too persistent to resist. We are not drifting randomly through the void. We are following a path, natural as a river, shaped by the hidden architecture of dark matter that underlies all visible structure in the universe. This realization transforms the void retroactively, changes its meaning and character. What seemed like pure emptiness was actually structured all along, organized by forces I could not detect, following rules I did not understand. The darkness was not absence, but a different kind of presence, matter in a form that does not interact with light, that remains invisible, not because it is not there, but because our usual ways of seeing cannot perceive it. The horizon ahead becomes clearer as the current strengthens, as we drift deeper into its influence, as the gravitational gradients become pronounced enough to map and measure. The current is guiding me somewhere, not deliberately, not with intention, but through the natural dynamics of matter flowing through space-time. It connects regions of higher density, threads between galaxy clusters like capillaries, connecting larger vessels, part of a cosmic circulation system that moves matter through the universe on timescales of billions of years. I check the trajectory calculations, trying to determine where the current leads, what lies ahead if I continue following this path. The data is uncertain, the distances too vast for precision, the time required too long for confidence. But the current seems to flow toward a region of higher density, a place where multiple currents converge, where dark matter accumulates and ordinary matter follows, where perhaps structure exists that has been hidden in this ocean of dark. Maybe another galaxy cluster, far beyond the one I left, separated from it by the void I just crossed. Maybe a great attractor, one of those mysterious gravitational centers that pull galaxies toward them across hundreds of millions of light years. Maybe something else entirely, some phenomenon we have not discovered yet, lurking in the deep currents where observation has never reached. There is no way to know without continuing forward, without following this current wherever it leads. The journey continues then, not ending but transforming, entering a new phase where the void reveals itself as less empty than it seemed, where invisible forces guide me forward, where the horizon is always receding but also always approaching. I am not lost in emptiness. I am following hidden paths, riding currents that connect everything, threading through the spaces between spaces toward destinations I cannot name but can finally sense. The eternal darkness remains, still vast, still profound, still humbling in its scale and emptiness. But it is no longer featureless, no longer meaningless, no longer purely isolating. It has structure and flow, tides and currents, hidden highways that guide travelers who drift far enough to find them. The void is not an ending but a passage, not an ocean to drown in but one to cross, with shores beyond reach but not beyond existence. The Voyager continues forward, momentum carrying me, gravity guiding me, the current shaping my path through the deepest dark. Behind me lies the galaxy I left, already invisible, already forgotten, already part of a past that has no connection to the present. Ahead lies unknown structure, possible discovery, the next horizon revealing itself incrementally as I approach. And all around, the eternal void holds everything together, connects everything through its emptiness, proves that nothing is truly separate, no matter how isolated it seems. This is where the journey leads, not to an ending but to a beginning, not to final darkness, but to darkness that conceals light waiting to be found. The intergalactic current pulls me forward, patient and inevitable as time, guiding the Voyager toward whatever comes next in this eternal voyage through the vast and humbling cosmos.